So what is Weem up to? We went from the Mini to the Pro to the Pro Plus, and now the latest form, the Weem Amp. I actually own all of these, and I do really appreciate Weem's efforts. They almost have a product for everyone at this point, and the recent talk of the Weem Ultra preamp streamer coming in the second quarter of this year might be the most interesting one yet. Some might feel these releases are too close together. Anyone say SMSL or Topping? I swear those guys are putting out 12 new DACs an hour. This release feels a little bit different and certainly has some potential to disrupt the market if they hit it just right. From what we know so far, it's going to have a number of advancements over the previous products. For one is the USB edition, and that's going to be for a media server, but also function as a USB out to pass along your digital duties to your DAC of your choosing. And of course, we're going to get a screen on this one. No idea to this point if it's going to be a touchscreen or the size that it's going to come in at. Touch won't be as important for myself, more so the size and the quality. I personally would prefer, if they're gonna give us a screen, make it big enough to read from your seating position. Otherwise, it really just ends up to be for settings. Unless you have this at your desk, and in that case, I can see the touchscreen as well. We're also gonna get a phono input, and my hope here is that they configure this one to be switchable between phono and a standard input, so we get a little more usability there as far as inputs. We'll get a sub out, and I'm sure that'll have all the same bass management controls that they have on the current Weem amp. There's HDMI ARC. This is another carryover from the Weem amp. Very much appreciated, and certainly is missing on the DMPA6. We also get Wi-Fi 6 and an integrated power supply. I would guess the enclosure on this one is going to be similar to the new Weem amp. It's a nice aluminum build, but this one's probably going to come at a bit of a larger scale to fit the screen that they're going to include on this one. So now what we don't know, and this is probably the most important part. What DAC are they going to go with? Are they going to keep this very much so a budget product with the ability to output to something more premium, or just go right after the high dollar competition? And the one that might be most important for everyone, the price and where this one's going to come in at. And I think that's really interesting. The amp comes in at around $300. We lose the amp here, but we do add several other parts, maybe the screen being the biggest. Will they keep this to around $300-400, or are we looking at something more like $500 or $600 with a premium DAC and a big screen? It's going to be interesting either way. On paper, this looks like direct competition to things like the DMPA6. Both have strong software, so I don't feel like that'll be the limitation here. It's going to be more things like the connections offered, hardware included, and of course that price. I'll certainly be getting this one in for review, so click that subscribe if you don't want to miss that review in the near future. Also let me know which features you're the most interested in and anything that you think that they might have missed on this one. Now we're going to go right into a review on the Douk Audio U10. This is a great little product that sounds better than what you might expect, coming in at $46.99 on Amazon. This obviously isn't going to be an endgame best thing since sliced bread amp, but I would easily recommend it to anyone that doesn't have a headphone amp and is looking to improve the sound of their headphones versus something like coming straight out of their PC or phone. One thing I want to key in on, and it's something that is going to come up more often on my videos, is simple usability. It's of no surprise that a lot of products today actually have pretty good performance. There's still very much so a difference between budget and premium, but it's no longer like you're either listening to a tin can or La Scalas. I feel like the area missed most often is the actual usability and customer experience. How it actually functions day to day needs to be highlighted on products. An interesting part about this is it's universal across both budget and high dollar gear. High dollar gear is not immune to this type of problem. If anything, I think they attempt to write it off sometimes, instead cite on how well something performs rather than how usable it is. Well, if you can't even use it, does it really perform? So keep that in mind for some of my future reviews. Subscribe, stick around, let's see how that turns out. I think the most surprising part about this one is how much power it actually produces. According to Douk, 1100 milliwatts. And I really don't even doubt it. I can't realistically turn this one up even close to the halfway point without reaching ear-damaging levels of volume. A couple notes there, at very low levels there is a channel imbalance, but it only affects volumes at very, very low levels, likely less than you would even be using, and it balances out to normal when you raise the volume to a normal listening level. And this really isn't uncommon. You see this same type of issue on several of the small budget Class D amps out there as well. I also want to note it includes the power cable, but it doesn't include the power supply. I went direct from my power strip. It just needs 5 volts and 2 amps here, so likely any adapter you have laying around will probably fit the bill. The unit actually operates at 24 volts. It has a built-in voltage boost circuit, which brings these 5 volts up to something more usable. I also don't necessarily recommend coming out of your PC for USB power. Those tend to be a bit noisy than some of the standalone options, but that's going to vary system to system, so you can give that one a try for yourself. I didn't open this one up either, but the op amps installed are NE5532s, and the tubes are 6A2s. I'm not really big into tube swapping, but I have no doubts that someone will have recommendation on what works best. The tubes in this case, I assume, are used in the input stage. Some like what tubes do, some don't. A simple way to think about it is pleasant distortion. How pleasant it is going to vary from person to person. Lots of different opinions on tubes, but when we're talking about a headphone amp under $50, it's of little risk to you to play around with something like this and see if you might like it. On the front, we have a 3.5 and a 6.35 output, as well as the volume dial that doubles as a power switch. Bring it all the way to the left and you turn it off. Flipping it around, we have the DC input, the RCAs, as well as the 3.5mm input. A note here, the RCA and the 3.5 input are connected in parallel. So I would personally avoid running both at the same time, or you might end up creating a new genre of music. And I can only assume something like this is how David Bowie was created. Like I said, this likely isn't for the hardcore headphones over everything user. It's more so a fun little amp that performs and sounds far better than it should for the money, and a very simple way to improve if you're starting from scratch, coming straight out of your PC or anything like that. The build quality is actually pretty good. It has a few quirks, which I fully expected, and it powers, even easily powers, just about anything any reasonably minded person would pair with a sub $50 headphone amp. Grab yourself either a phone dongle and connect it straight to the source, or simply get a DAC and streamer combo like the SMSL SE1 and the Wii Mini, and you're good to go. This one gets a recommendation from me, as long as you mind your expectations. Power is plentiful, it's simple, and it actually just works. So if you want to have a little fun with a hybrid tube amp, this might be the way to go to dip your toes in the water. If you're a tube connoisseur and this doesn't have the uber rare tubes or Class A performance you're looking for, this likely isn't for you. But honestly, you already knew that. Take care, have fun with it, and I'll talk to everyone soon. See ya.